I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Hi, Cam. Could we have a sunshine announcement, please?
Yes, Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Today is Tuesday, March 25th in the year 2025. This is a Jersey City Planning Board meeting with a scheduled 5:30 p.m. start time. And in accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting has been given to the editor of the Bergen Record, El Especialito, and posted with the city clerk on Friday, March 21st of this year. This meeting was also posted on the Jersey City Division of City Planning webpage, and all distribution materials made available to the board were published and made available to the public.
All right. Thank you, Cam. Could we have a roll call, please?
Yes, Chairman. Acting Vice Chair Gungadin.
Here.
Councilwoman Prinzeri.
Here.
Commissioner Torres. Commissioner Lipsky.
Here.
And Chairman Langston.
Here.
All right, we have 5 commissioners present. We have a quorum.
All right. Could we swear in the staff, please, Mike?
I see the match. Joe, Tanya, and Cameron. You guys swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Correspondence, Cam?
Yes, Chairman. Okay, so we have 4 items on the agenda tonight that are requesting to carry, and that would be to our April 22nd meeting. The attorneys representing the applicants are here, and we could probably bring them up to state their case,
Okay.
starting with Joseph Paparo of Grass House.
What's the item number on that?
That would be old business item C. That is 523 Tunnelly Avenue. They've requested to carry with preservation to April 22nd.
Do we have counsel
And-
here for them?
I'm assuming their attorney's not here. Item 13 under new business has also reached out to staff. Their attorney is Mr. Harrington, and they're
Good evening, counsel.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, Charles Harrington of Connell Foley on behalf of the applicant. On this one, my understanding is there was a glitch on Tyler. Otherwise, it was a very straightforward application. It'd probably take as long as me being up here right now. But,
We've heard that.
in that regard, I'm respectfully requesting if it could be carried to the April 8th meeting instead of the April 22nd. It really is, shouldn't take more than 5 minutes.
Cam? I don't know what April 8th looks like yet.
it's crowded.
Of course.
Yeah.
I could get out of the way in the beginning.
Do you have something else on that night that you're willing to bump?
I'd have to check. Yeah. I don't know.
I'm sure you do.
Yeah, we
get
could
it
do
done.
April 8th because it's a subdivision and they have stricter deadlines for being heard.
It's as simple as there was a subdivision that took the property and made it part of one lot. That other owner didn't want it, so we're taking it back.
Sounds easy enough.
That's half my presentation.
Okay, Cam, let's move that to April 8th. We'll put that right up front.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, counsel.
Okay. The next item on the agenda that I corresponded with staff to carry was item 15 on the agenda.
Good evening,
Good
Steve
evening.
and Joseph. After discussing with Cam, I don't think there's any chance that this application gets heard tonight. Some other professionals had childcare issues, so we decided to carry it
Sure.
to whatever hearing the board would graciously give us.
April
22nd.
22nd. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, counsel. Okay, so just for the record, anyone that's here for item C is case P2024-0149. It's a preliminary and final major site and conditional use for 523 Tunnelly Ave. That will be heard on April 22nd. Item 13, case P2024-0180, preliminary and final major subdivision for Harborside Place. That will be carried to a date certain, April 8th, with preservation of notice, as well as item P2024-0035 is a preliminary and final major site plan with C variances for 135 Garfield Avenue. That is carried to a date certain, April 22nd, with preservation of notice. So anyone that's here tonight, are you here for one of those? So that's not going to be heard tonight. They've carried it. I apologize, but they,
Another certified letter to let me know?
no.
You don't. Ma'am, which case are you here on?
135.
Okay, so this is us saying that we're preserving the notice is your certified letter. That will be on the agenda for April 22nd.
You're not going to send me another letter?
We don't send that. The attorney sends that for the applicant. April 22nd, we'll hear it.
There will not be another letter, ma'am. There will not be another letter. But that meeting is on, that application is on April 22nd. In this room,
And the time?
5:30.
Same time, 5:30. Okay, so let's move on to,
Chairman, actually, we have one more item. Item 16 is requested to carry, and Maria Vallejo is here to speak on behalf of our applicant.
okay. Good evening, counsel.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Maria Vallejo on behalf of the applicant. This is another matter that had a little difficulty with Tyler. We did proper notice, but the application documents were not able to be accessible by the public. So we are asking for it to be moved with preservation to April 22nd.
Okay, so we're going to move, we're going to carry case P2024-0126, a final major site plan for 853 Jersey Avenue, once again to April 22nd. Anybody that's here for that application, this is your notice. You will not receive new notice. Thank you, counsel.
Thank you.
Cam, do you want to we'll get the artist done? Do you want the legislative item in there too?
Yes.
Okay, we are going to move a couple things around real quick, just to get them in real before the meeting gets heavy. We're going to call item 9 under new business, review and discussion of certified artist Matthew Novak, Yi Cheng, and Samuel Jablon. Formal action may be taken.
Okay, Chairman. We have 3 artists here tonight who have met criteria 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 to be certified artists and be eligible for the artist housing that the city offers. And the Artist Certification Board has recommended approval, and planning staff agrees. We recommend approval and a favorable recommendation to council.
Okay, thank you, Cam. Anybody, any questions? Okay, is there anybody here from the public that wants to comment on this? Anyone from public?
Seeing no one from the public, Mr. Chair, I move to close.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Public is closed. Cam, we have your recommendations, so I will entertain a motion.
Chair, I'd like to make a recommendation to approve the certified artists as listed in the agenda this evening for approval and sent to council.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded for approval.
Acting Vice Chair Gongadin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Prince Airy. Commissioner Torres. Commissioner Lipsky.
Aye.
And Chairman Langston.
Aye.
Motion carries, all in favor.
All right, thank you. Let's move on to item 10, is case P2025-0042. This is the review and discussion of an amendment to the land development ordinance regarding the general development checklist. Formal action may be taken tonight.
Okay, yeah, commissioners, we have uploaded to the portal is a checklist with highlights that add language and strike language to our development checklist. We are updating this to, with regards to doing digital submissions and digital signature for plans. So you'll see that we're striking this affidavit of submission because we now accept them digitally through Tyler, which collects the signatures of the applicants. We recently updated our demolition standards and ordinance, so we are striking the determination of significance memo. We are adding in that the Department of Community Affairs electronic plan certification form is required for these digital submitted plans. We're also adding to our zoning table that they add or notate what sort of stormwater control applies if they're a minor or major development, as it relates to our local ordinance. And then we're striking some outdated IZO requirements that were left over from the first IZO that was replaced by the second. So these are very out-of-date kind of language and has been a cause for confusion. Master plan consistency for these items is that we're undertaking zoning revisions to clarify regulations and address current issues. And there are also items in here that help us promote planning for sustainability and climate resiliency. Staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you, Cam. Anybody, any questions?
No.
Okay, is there anybody here from the public that wants to comment? Please, come on up.
I do. Mike Kulowski, 225 Liberty Avenue.
Good evening.
Kulowski.
Good
I would
evening,
like
sir.
to-
We have 3 minutes for you.
Okay, can you explain to me, is there a due diligence requirement in this? And why is that?
Sir, I don't
That's
know what you mean by
fiduciary
a due
duty of
diligence.
the city, right?
What do you mean due diligence?
Due diligence, if somebody applies with the city for something, the city has to investigate who the person is, right?
Investigate the applicant?
Yes.
There are
That's called-
disclosures that have to be filed,
Yeah, but it's voluntary by
not
the-
voluntary.
Not voluntary.
Mandatory under the statute.
Yes, but they have to submit, if they lie to you, there's no means of verifying it, right?
Means of verifying that they submitted a
If-
certification lying?
Correct.
Okay. Yes,
So
if
that's
people
why-
lie under oath, that's against the law.
Correct, but they still do, right? It's
I
possible.
can't
So
speak to
if
whether people lie or not, sir.
If you have your own due diligence report, that you take responsibility for it, right? You don't rely on somebody who's already a convicted fraudster in case of one of the persons who will appear here.
Absolutely not. People certify to things, and that's what the statute requires. That they certify that their ownership interest is as they state.
But there's nothing prevents the city to require own due diligence report.
I'm not going to argue with you, sir. You asked the question, that's the answer.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm requesting that this will be added. Own
Noted.
city-owned investigation and report, due diligence report.
Okay, that could be,
Noted.
yeah, that could be discussed at city council when it comes up in front of them for a vote.
Thank you.
Got it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, anybody else from public?
Chair, see no one for public. I would like to close the public portion.
Second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Public is closed. Matt, we have your recommendation, so I'll entertain a motion.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case P2024-0042, which is the review and discussion of amendments to the land development ordinance regarding the general development checklist.
Second.
Motion made and seconded for approval.
Acting Vice Chair Gangadin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Prinzari,
Aye.
Commissioner Torres,
Aye.
Commissioner Lipsky,
Aye.
Chairman Langston.
Yeah, I think everything's in line with the master plan, and I think it should get a favorable recommendation to city council from us. Aye.
Motion carries, all in favor.
Okay, thank you. So let's go back to old business. We have a case P2023-0106 is a preliminary and final major site plan with C variances for 119 Merritt Street.
Chairman, I believe
That's
that-
adjourned, I'm sorry.
That's adjourned.
That's under adjournments? That is under adjournments. I apologize, everybody. Okay, so under old business, item A is case P2025-0030 is an extension for preliminary and final major site plan with variances for 120 Storms Avenue. Good evening, council.
Good evening, Stephen Joseph, Castano Quigley Trame for the applicant. This is the first one-year extension, relatively large project. Maybe on any other agenda, this would be a big project, but not tonight. So we're just requesting that 1 year to continue to pursue financing for the project.
Okay, any questions?
No.
All right.
Mr. Joseph, does the applicant agree to the conditions of the original approval?
Of course.
Then staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you. So before we entertain a motion, is anybody here from the public that wants to comment on this application? Anyone from public?
Chair, see no one from public. I would like to close the public portion.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Public is closed. We have staff recommendations, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to approve case P2025-0030 as presented to the board.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded for approval.
Okay. Acting Vice Chair Gangden,
Aye.
Councilwoman Prince Avery,
Aye.
Commissioner Torres,
Aye.
Commissioner Lipsky,
Aye.
Chairman Langston.
Aye.
Motion carries all in favor.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, council. All right, let's move on to item B, is case P2025-0026. This is an extension for preliminary and final major site plan with variances for 2 6th Street. Council, I believe you're going to recuse on this matter?
That's correct, Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Just one sec,
Good evening,
council.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. My name is Eric D. McCullough from Waters McPherson McNeil on behalf of the applicant Newport Associates Development Company. This was an approval from 2022 for preliminary site plan approval for a 1,723 unit building on the 6th Street Pier. The applicant is requesting its first 1-year extension to continue to investigate the opportunities.
Okay, thank you, council. And before we continue, let me just put on record, we are obviously without counsel right now. If the board at any time feels like they need to consult outside counsel, we'll reserve that right. We'll carry your application until a certain date when we can advise with counsel.
Certainly, I understand. Oh,
Okay.
and we will consent, of course, anticipating the question, we will consent to all the conditions in the original resolution.
Okay, thank you, counsel. Any questions, anyone?
No.
Okay, is there anybody here from public that wants to comment on this application? Anyone from public?
Chair, see no one from public. I would like to close the public portion.
Second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Public is closed.
Acting Vice Chair Gangden.
Oh, we haven't got there
Any
yet.
recommendations?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Anything you want to add?
Staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case P2025-0026 as presented to the board for approval.
Second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded for approval.
Oh, there you go. Acting Vice Chair Gangden,
Aye.
Councilwoman Prince Avery,
Aye.
Commissioner Torres,
Aye.
Commissioner Lipsky,
Aye.
Chairman Langston.
Aye.
Motion carries all in favor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you, counsel. Okay, let's move on to item D, is case P2024-0210 is a preliminary and final major site plan with C variances for 2966 Kennedy Boulevard and 69 Cottage Street. This had previous testimony taken on February 25th.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Charles Harrington of Connell Foley on behalf of the applicant. As you just stated, there was prior testimony at the last hearing. It was at the very end of the meeting, and it was somewhat rushed, if you will. In that regard, we'd like to take a step back and kind of re-present, if that's okay.
I'd appreciate that, counsel.
Okay. And I just want to kind of give an overview of why we're here, refresh the recollection of board members if they're not familiar with the project. This is a project that had, I believe, 2 prior approvals, maybe 3, where the most recent approval is for a 35-story building with 252 residential units, a hotel component, a restaurant component, a banquet hall component, and on-site parking. It incorporates the base zoning, which is Zone 3, an office bonus zoning, which allows 2 additional floors, and then there is a corner bonus for this lot, which then would permit you to go up to 31 stories. As of right, it was approved with deviations to go up to a 35-story building before this board. My client started construction on that, and I don't want to misrepresent, but he's somewhere between 4 and 6 stories out of the ground. I'm sure you've seen it. It's the old Pep Boy sites. But when the amendments to the Journal Square redevelopment plan were adopted in August of this year, he actually put some brakes on it because he wanted to relook at the project and see how that would affect this, and could he do something with the new zoning. As you know, the new zoning requires 10% affordable. The prior approvals have 0 affordable, didn't require any. So the idea, it also allows you 5,000 additional square feet of residential space for every affordable unit within the project, and 250 additional amenity space for each affordable unit, and allows you to go up to an additional 20 stories. So what we're proposing tonight is a 56-story building. Now, as of right, it would permit a 51-story building. And why are we asking for that? It's a brand new application because the change of the number of units is 20% or more. So we can't seek an amendment to the prior approval. We have to seek a brand new application. But based upon the existing conditions that we were approved for a 35-story building, we're out of the ground. So essentially you've got 35 stories in your back pocket, not to be too colloquial, but we're seeking the additional 20 stories, and then that brings you up to 55. And now the 56-story, where does that come from? Because under the new zoning, that rooftop area, the rooftop amenity space, under the old zoning, that wasn't counted as a story when you covered only up to 20% of the rooftop. But under the new zoning, that's now considered a story. So that is now gets us to the 56 stories. But what we also have to do is request a number of deviations with this. So the deviations that were approved as part of the last approval, the 35-story approval, they don't carry over into this. This is all brand new. You don't get the benefit of saying, well, they were approved last time. And what's unique about this too is when we're going up, I know the planning and the planning board and the city council, when they made these new accommodations, they made some tweaks to the tower on base regulations, and the idea was to try to comply with those as you go up, unless you can provide the appropriate reasons. In this instance, we already have the structural supports coming out of the ground, the columns. So that affects it all the way up. And we have our structural engineer to touch upon that. So we can't accommodate that all the way up. And that's why you're going to see the project you see tonight, and the request for a number of the deviations for the additional 20 stories. But that being said, we think it's a great opportunity. This is, I think, the intent of the amendment is to create affordable housing in the Journal Square area. This is going to would result in 63 affordable units. That's actually 11.6% of the total units, not 10%, which is the minimum requirement. We'd still have the hotel component, 154 hotel keys, if you will, and we still have 202 parking spaces. So that's not changing. Still providing for the restaurant use, the banquet hall, and the retail on the ground floor. The ground floor is not changing. That's already built, right? So it's really everything about going vertical. You have right down the street, you've got these Journal Square buildings that are 70 plus stories, so this is not going to be an outlier in the area. It's consistent with what the amendments were adopted for, but it is beyond the 51 stories. But I think this, I would hope the board looks at this, how it's a unique situation because we're already out of the ground, and yeah, did we choose to do that? I say we, the client, they chose to stop, but this is an opportunity to provide this affordable housing in this project. Without it, you revert back to the existing approval, which is 252 residential units and no affordable housing. So that being said, that's the background for why we're here. I have Mr. Vandermark will walk you through the application again and the architecture. Then I have our structural engineer to touch upon those issues, Mr. Christie, and then Sam Bellamy to address the requested deviations.
Okay, thank you, Council. And just for the record, the only commissioner that wasn't at the last application, and granted, we're starting fresh and walking it back a little bit, but Commissioner Lipsky was not at the last application. Commissioner, did you have a chance to view the transcript or record?
Did, and I saw that there was some sort of arbitrary time block on Mr. Vandermark of like 15 minutes, and I said, how could we? So I read it.
No, we need at least an hour, Mr. Vandermark, no less.
Swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
For the record, can you state and spell your name?
Sure. That is Anthony C. Vandermark Jr., Vandermark, V-A-N-D-E-R-M-A-R-K, principal of the architectural firm of MVMK Architecture.
Mr. Vandermark, we've qualified you in the past. Your license is current tonight?
Yes, it is, Chair.
Okay, thank you, sir. You're qualified.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. And as Chuck had previously mentioned, I had maybe 10 minutes of testimony at the last hearing, and I would just like to kind of back up, maybe slow it down a little bit, and just start from scratch again, because I do feel like it might have been a bit rushed, and I think I was maybe providing too much information within that 10 minutes, and I would kind of like to walk the board through this application. I'm not going to go through the complete nuts and bolts of the application, although this is being considered a new site plan application, but I will take you through each floor and each use going up to the top of the building. Just to make everybody familiar once again with the site, as Chuck had previously mentioned, it is the old Pep Boys site. Oh, you know why? Because I'm not plugged in yet. That's fine. There we go.
Vandermark, I believe that we were, or had marked a slide presentation.
Correct. We have
As
44
A2.
slides in the deck. I should be using 39 this evening, but 44 in total.
It's the same one that we marked as A2 previously. You haven't added any slides, haven't taken any away.
Yes, sir. No.
Okay. So, Mr. Harrington, we are on A2, which is the Vandermark slide deck. I believe, Mr. Harrington, that had been submitted after the last hearing.
Yes, I believe so.
Not.
No.
What's that?
Okay, no, we did not.
No.
All right.
Okay, just to reintroduce the site to everybody, it's formerly the old Pep Boys site. It is on the southeast corner of Kennedy Boulevard and Cottage Street. Cottage Street runs from east to west, Kennedy Boulevard north to south. The proposed site area has not changed, at 20,800 square feet, which is roughly 60% greater in area than the baseline Zone 3 for 25 stories and above. this is the equivalent to a half an acre, and again, corner lot, oversized lot, and we are utilizing the office bonus, corner lot bonus D, and also the MIH, which is the mandatory inclusionary housing for an additional 20 stories. As Chuck had previously mentioned, and also in my original testimony, there's a pre-existing 5-story structure, or the podium of the building that's already constructed. As you can see here, the formwork and framing for the 6th floor has already been made. In the background, as you can see, the Journal Squared Towers. And right to the left background, you can see the Homestead Place Namdar projects, mid-block on Cottage Street. This is standing south, looking north. Again, 5 stories of this structure has already been constructed, and we are proposing this evening 56 stories. 3-dimensional rendering of the new proposed 56-story version of the Imperial Tower. We had previously had a predominantly ACM cladded design on the lower 35 stories, and we have a glass curtain wall structure growing above the original 35-story structure, topping out at 55 stories with a 56-story rooftop restaurant amenity space. Okay, so why are we here, right? The original approval was for 35 stories, and we were here in July 11th of 2023. This is considered a new application. Site areas remain the same. We are proposing to the principal roof height a 55-story building at 592 feet 8 inches. The number of feet is a non-variance. We're just asking for a variance here in number of stories. So again, the building height in feet is permitted at 592 feet and 8 inches. The 56-story, as Chuck had previously mentioned, was at 20% of rooftop amenity and restaurant space. Due to the fact that the RDP, or the redevelopment plan, has reduced the rooftop amenity to 10%, this now becomes an additional story, thus 56-story. The top of that rooftop amenity is at 609 feet 10 inches, while you're permitted to have an amenity at 613 feet. This proposal, again, takes advantage of the MIH, the mandatory inclusionary housing, for additional 20 stories. But we're here to add the additional 21 stories, the one being the rooftop amenity. Residential use at 542 units being proposed. As Chuck had previously mentioned, we're at 252 in the previous application. We are proposing 63 units dedicated to affordable at 11.6%. The application has not changed at the base of the building. We are providing 2 retail spaces at the first floor. The lower 35, again, the yard setbacks as previously proposed and approved. There is no change. As we will go through this application and this proposal, we have slight increases in the setbacks of floors 35 through 55 of 2 feet at the east, west, and north, and then a 5-foot one to the south. This is to offset the gained area as part of the proposal or the requested variances for the setbacks. The parking spaces remains at 202. We will be fully compliant with the mandated EV charging stations of the 17%, which is 34. We're proposing 154 hotel rooms. That's the same as the previous application. Bicycle parking spaces have increased due to the density increase. We're at 295 interior bicycle parking spaces with 8 outdoor being proposed. This application has 6 floors of dedicated hotel use, and as I will take you through the graduation of this building, these 6 floors could have been obligated to residential. However, they are now dedicated to hotel use. Banquet hall, originally at the 30th floor, moves to the 54th, and the restaurant now is at the 55th floor and partial 56 with the rooftop amenity.
So, Mr. Vandermark, I just want to be clear. There's a lot of qualifying language being used.
Yes.
This is a new application.
Correct.
These are not existing variances. So for everyone's edification, they don't exist. This is a new application.
Agreed. just trying to take the board, which was previously approved, but is not a continuation of this application. Everything here you see before you has to stand on the merits of the application before you this evening, and not which was previously approved.
You have a
As part of
question?
this,
I don't see the previous approved stuff in front of me. So when you keep going back, I have nothing to reference to. So if you're gonna keep bringing that up, I'm not sure what because I don't. Shut it off on me.
Just pull it down. Thank you.
I don't see the previous approved items that you keep referencing and stuff like that in front of me. I don't have a drawing that's showing me what was approved and what was not approved. And so by stating that, out of all the applications that we have listened to in about years, that this one has gone, sorry, I'm not going to remember everything that was approved and not approved, unless it was in front of me. So I don't know.
And
I
I'm
don't know if
just-
we can keep hearing this part because it's getting
I'm not going
a
any
little
further.
confusing as you just started.
I'm not going any further into the previous application, just stating numbers and facts, and that's it. Now I will take you through what you have before you this evening.
I agree with
Sorry
you.
about
I
that,
agree with you.
Commissioner.
But
Yes.
there are numbers and facts that you have in front of you that I don't have in front of me.
Understood.
That's the problem. I agree with you that was brought up to the board. It was approved.
Right.
Numbers and facts brought up to you that you have. That right now, I'm going crazy on this thing. Looking, I'm looking even for 55 story. I find it all the way on the top line up here, and everything else I see is 51 story on your header of your first page of your architectural drawing. So I just want to put that in the record.
Sure, absolutely.
But,
Okay. Go ahead, Mr. Vandermark.
Thank you. So the application before you, again, is proposed for 56 stories. We are proposing 542 residential units as part of this application. 108 of those 542 would be studios ranging from 553 to 596, 252 one-bedrooms that'll range from 625 to 684, 72 one-bedrooms plus den at 814 to 856. We are proposing 72 two-bedrooms at 1102 to 1154. We have 25 two-bedrooms plus den, and they are all at 1,269, and we are proposing 11 three-bedrooms at 1,248. Within that ratio, there will be 63 affordable housing units broken down in accordance to the affordable housing program. As Chuck had previously mentioned, the variance is listed, and we have Mr. Bellamy that will go into further detail of these variances. We are proposing a building height variance in number of stories, not feet, tower front yard setback, a side setback abutting a lower density zone, a setback from adjacent properties' rear yard lot line. We are proposing valet parking as part of this application. That is a variance, and we are proposing head-in and head-out parking and loading at the base of the building at the first floor. As part of this application, we are proposing 7 different project uses. Again, first floor retail, we are proposing parking, a commercial amenity of a gym and a dog daycare. We have proposed hotel use, residential use, banquet hall, and restaurant spaces at the 55th and 56th floor. This application before you, again, to the top of the amenity, 56 stories, 609 feet, 10 inches, centrally located. We have a principal roof level of 592 feet, 8 inches, and that's at 55 stories. The proposed site plan approach is we have a continuous curb line with 5 street trees, all new sidewalks and new curbing with also bioswales that are interconnecting at Kennedy Boulevard. We have new intersection improvements at the corner of Cottage and Kennedy Boulevard. As part of this application, we have a proposed drop-off area for both deliveries, short-term deliveries of Amazon, and also passenger drop-off for residents, for Uber, and also anybody visiting the site. We have a depressed curb or a curb cut on Cottage Street and follow directly to the east with the transformer vault. As you can see here in footprint area, we have a large amount of open roof deck at the roof, with an elevated pool deck and an infinity pool to the northeast portion of the upper roof. The lower graphic before you, we have the footprint of the base of the building located in blue, and the proposed red outline is the new floors at 36 through 55 outlined in red. We have some small minor setbacks at the perimeter of the building to bring the top of the tower inward that I'll get into when we get into the residential floors in a few minutes. At the base of the building, I had previously talked about the curbing and the site approach. We have a corner residential lobby of double height space. To the southern portion of the property, we have a 4,857 square foot hotel lobby and retail cafe that'll service both the tenants and anybody coming in off of the street that wanted to eat or have a cup of coffee. We're proposing a centrally located two-car elevator system that will take us to floors 3, 4, 5, and 6, which is the parking garage as well as the cellar. We have the vehicular approach coming in off of Cottage for ingress and egress. That location also services as a loading bay, as well as the ADA van and ambulance space all the way to the back of that garage portion. Centrally located elevator system with also two hotel lobby elevators coming in off of the retail cafe, and of course the commercial elevator all the way to the right coming in off of Cottage Street. Graphic on the right has the tower with the proposed uses in color-coded for each use as I'll walk you up the building and through this application.
Mr. Vandermark, if I may, do you have a site plan that shows the setbacks at the first floor? Mr. Harrington, are we going to have a civil engineer that's going to go into any of that, or I didn't hear that in your witnesses?
No, we were just going to submit on the architectural. It hasn't changed. I mean, it's an existing condition that was built out consistent with the prior approval.
Were there variances granted?
For the ground floor? I don't believe so. I think we complied with the sidewalk. I think it was.
All those setbacks are compliant?
We would, yeah, the prior application would have had some setbacks at the ground floor level as well, I believe.
Right. Well, both sidewalks were compliant in the original application, and the 20-foot sidewalk on Kennedy and the 15-foot wide sidewalk on Cottage Street as being proposed, not to go into the original application, but the proposal here in front of you are compliant with the sidewalk width that is required in the redevelopment plan.
But the ground floor setback deviations were with regard to the side yards, if you will, not along the
Not along
the
Kennedy
street.
and Cottage. We have the abutment to the.
We need to know what those are and what the request is, no?
Well, we were
I understand what's been constructed. What I want to know is what the requirement is and what we're showing, because you need a deviation for that. I think we all agree on that.
Right.
So I can't grant something without knowing what it is and then the justification for it. So I need to know what the deviation is
And we'd have Ms.
on those. So if a different witness was going to provide, that was my initial question. I respect that, but
Can you provide that, Anthony?
Yeah, I mean, I will talk about it, and again, our planner is here to talk about, you know, the deviations in accordance to what this application is being proposed this evening. So
but I don't
yes.
have a site civil engineer to have the site plan sheet, right, with the setbacks or therefore the deviations along, I guess on this drawing, the right side and the bottom side, if I'm following what you guys are verbally stating.
and this graphic does show you the deviations, just to make it clear. If we start to the right of this graphic, we have a deviation of 30 feet on the setback abutting a lower density zone. So that text up at the top of this graphic shows you what the deviation is. It shows you the 30-foot line abutting the zone 4. So we are
That's the requirement, 30
that's,
feet.
That's the requirement. We are proposing 0 at the podium of this building. And then the tower graphic, as you can see, has a 15-foot setback and then a 20-foot setback. So the deviation request is for, it is for 15 feet and it is for 10 feet as you go up the building.
So I guess, and if the board's following, then that's fine with me. But what I'm struggling with is, I see the blue and the red. And if I understand correctly, the blue and the red is the tower. Am I correct, Mr. Vandermark?
That is correct, sir.
And if I understood what you just said, the podium, the base, has a 0 setback.
That's correct.
So when I'm looking at this drawing doesn't show what the requirement is. So this shows where the building is proposed to be located. So you have a 0 where 30 is required. On the right side, I don't see an arrow as to direction. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And then how about, what is the lower side
Okay, the lower side
or the bottom
is a
of the sheet?
30-foot rear yard setback abutting the rear property line of an adjacent property. And we are at 0 on this line at the podium, and the requirement is 30 feet. And the graphic is here.
Just for the record, we do have civil engineering plans that were submitted as part of the application, but we do not have the civil engineer here tonight because we anticipated that Mr. Vandermark could walk you through the project and the setbacks, and Mr. Bellamy as well, our planner.
Yeah, counsel, I don't see any civil
I didn't
plans
think I saw them either.
on the site.
I saw a survey, but I don't recall seeing engineering.
I see a survey, a stormwater management report, a traffic assessment, a principal point statement, notice, transportation comments.
Yeah, I'm not seeing site civil drawings, Mr. Harrington. Can you tell me what they're labeled as?
Mr. Lean's showing me that it says civil engineering plans. Yeah, they're here. They're just under civil engineering plans on the portal.
I don't know what happened. I lost it on the phone. I saw it. I'm not disputing that I saw it, but I don't have it on my portal. Mr. Lean, you're accessing that directly through the data portal?
Are you logged in?
Are you logged in or is it on the public facing side?
He's logged in.
Here, I'm reviewing the public facing side right now. Publication, staff report, checklist first revision, transportation comments, 200-foot list. Sample draft, principal point statement. Mr. Lean, do you see this? Can you show me? Yeah. It might help illuminate what issue may exist.
I think we should go back to paper. Let's do a new checklist.
So it appears, based on my look, that, and I need to log into the back end to confirm this, that that there was a civil engineering document submitted, and I want to go into the back end and confirm this, but it seems to have, this, for whatever reason, the setting was not clicked to make it publicly available.
So, Mr. Harrington, here's the problem I have, and I'll ask the board. I haven't seen civil drawings. I don't know what else was submitted that's not on the public portal.
Of course, we go by the public portal.
Right.
As far as, this board's concerned, we're a member of the public when we're looking at this information. We should be viewing exactly what the public can see, nothing more, nothing less.
And the public should have access to
Of course.
everything as well, obviously.
Yeah, that's the Open Public Records Act.
And that's, it's a glitch. We're not
Understood.
responsible for.
Understood. I'm not saying you are.
Yeah. I just want the public to know that.
So were engineering studies done
Yes.
on the? Obviously, there's a lot more weight.
Yes, the structural engineering studies were done, and we have our structural engineer here tonight.
Did he submit a report?
Is there a report? Because that's not on the portal either.
There's not a report. We submitted a letter to planning back when we were discussing this, but there was no structural report submitted. Right, Tom?
I don't have that letter either.
Planning did not receive a report. There was in discussions a letter. It wasn't entered as evidence, though. It was my intent. It was my understanding that Mr. Harrington intended to have his engineer testify on the record.
That's correct. We did not have a structural report prepared. We just had a letter submitted. The initial discussions was, can this be done? When we met with the planning department, it said, we need a letter from your structural engineer that says this absolutely can be done. And that's what was provided, but there was no further structural report. If that's what you're saying, that, the board needs to see, that's another question and issue.
The board is considering this as a new application. So we can't go off of an existing engineering report, especially if it's not on the portal. If we're not looking at that versus the new letter that your structural engineer is sending, and it hasn't been submitted to the city's engineering department, correct? Or has the letter been?
The letter was just submitted to the planning department. It was.
So, Mr. Harrington, obviously the issue that I have is I have no idea what the letter says, but if it's just a one-line conclusion that says this is structurally feasible, then that's what the letter says. I haven't seen it. It's not on the portal. My bigger concern in real time is what else was submitted that is not on the portal, and I don't know how to address that issue other than to have Mr. Lean look at what I'm looking at and compare it to what he submitted. But again, Chairman, that puts us in a very difficult spot in terms of proceeding here this evening with the public not having access to all of this, the board not having been able to review all of this. Mr. Harrington, I absolutely understand that this is a glitch in the matrix and is not something that the applicant did. And I'm not trying to say or to give anybody the impression that the applicant did any of this. The reality is, at the very least, as I sit here, I don't have a letter you're referring to, and I don't have the civil drawings. I haven't had them, and I have not seen them.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's an issue here with the civil engineering plans not being available on, on the portal. I just note for the record, our public notice provides that they're available at the office of the Division of the City Planning and the portal, right? Because kind of go back to old school. Like, if you
Did you
can't find
submit
them,
this in paper?
what's that?
Did you submit it in paper?
No, I submit, but you could go to the office and say, "Can I see these plans?" If somebody
So-
doesn't, not everybody has a computer. Not everybody has a. I'm not saying that solves the problem we're looking at
Well,
tonight. but-
Council, are you suggesting that the board do their research in the planning department only and not at home?
No, absolutely not.
Because, that's up and above the public being allowed to look at the plans in the planning department. We need access to these things
Yeah, no, understood.
on our own time.
That's what I was going to say. Mr. Santos' comments. What else? Mr. Lampe, I'm sorry. What else is not there? We don't know. It doesn't matter right now because we can't get over the first question. The civil plans aren't there. That's a problem, right? And the board wants to see them. That's what I'm hearing.
100%.
And you want them to be available for the public.
Yes.
So how do we make sure that everything that was submitted gets on the public aspect of the portal? And I think that's a question for the applicant and I guess you, Matt, to throw you under the bus.
No, it does require applicant staff cooperation, and it's clear somewhere in that process there might have been an oversight. I'm going into the back end right now to see if it is indeed there on the back end, as in the non-public side of the application. But yes, I mean, ultimately, it does require it does require the cooperation of both the applicant and staff to make sure these are available. They need to submit the documents, and then we need to certify that everything's set up correctly in the portal.
So, Matt, are engineering reports required for a building of this size and scope?
So, planning typically reviews, we review stormwater and the like with the stormwater plan, and there's there'll be a traffic assessment. But as far as the structural engineering of a building goes, generally that's not in our jurisdiction. Obviously, if there are questions about that may be relevant from a planning perspective, that can come up and we can ask for such a things. But ultimately, the structural soundness of a building is determined by staff in the building department.
And that's,
Okay, but-
if I could add, it's not. I don't believe it's a checklist item. Like you don't provide, and this is a
what I wanna
unique
say.
application. So yeah, we did have a structural engineer look at it. If the board wants us to provide a more formal report for your eyes and review, then that's something that we can provide. I want you to have all the information in front of you.
So, Mr. Harrington, if I'm understanding what I've heard thus far and what I've reviewed thus far, the applicant's intention is to have a much larger tower placed on the podium that has been constructed to date. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
And I think the chair's comment is, how do I know that that podium can support a much larger tower? And I think with respect to the structural engineer, it sounds like the letter indicated that the structural engineer is not concerned about that.
That's correct.
But he hasn't provided a formal report to that effect. It sounds like it was just, I'm not concerned about that.
Well,
But I haven't seen the letter.
Right. I'm sure he did his analysis, and that's the letter.
Didn't provide that analysis. He may have done it.
No, he
but
just
that
provided
wasn't
his
submitted.
conclusion.
He just provided his conclusion.
That's right.
So I think that report is going to be very helpful to the
But is,
board.
but is that the letter that's sitting in the back of the portal that was accepted by planning?
No. So, council's referring to so we had, in a letter, we had an engineer testify to us that they thought that it wasn't an issue, but any sort of report or calculations were not provided. And I believe Mr. Lampy is requesting those calculations
Well,
to
Mr.
be...
Harrington just said that the structural engineer submitted a letter that stated structurally this could be constructed as proposed. That the structural engineer made that conclusion. Mr. Harrington then said, of course, he believes that that conclusion was based on an actual analysis, which, as attorneys, we would imagine that the licensed professional did an analysis before providing a conclusion. So the analysis would be the basis of the report that forms the conclusion, and that's what the chairman and the board is asking for.
Well, let me ask this question, counsel. Is, to Matt's point, if a engineering report is not required by the planning board, is that not a moot point? Or was it just a gratuitous act?
It's not a moot point. The board can always ask for anything that it determines to be reasonable and necessary when weighing the application. So if the board feels it's necessary, then the board has the absolute right to ask for it. Whether it's a checklist item, it's not a checklist item, so that just determines completeness and whether the board can start the hearing aspect of the application. But once the application starts, the board is entitled to ask for additional information that will help guide the board in making its determinations. Mr. Harrington has agreed, I believe, to provide such a document. It sounds like it exists.
Like it's done,
It's
right.
already done to some degree. I don't know how hard it is to take the analysis and put it in a formal report, but
But that's what I think my contention was, whether or not Mr. Harrington was willing to do it gratuitously or under duress.
No, we're willing to do that. We understand it's an important issue as part of this application because it's a unique situation. And that's why we had our structural engineer here tonight to address the issue, because you don't see structural engineers here, right?
I love to see him here.
Unless we're doing the P-pod.
Yeah.
Mr. Lampy.
But
and-
I just spoke with my structural engineer, and he said, absolutely, I can put together a structural report.
Sure.
So you're right, the analysis is probably done. It may be in, different notebooks, and he puts it together in a form so that you can review it and walk through it, and then we can have him testify to it to confirm his conclusions.
So, counsel,
so that's
when
a
it-
senior partner answer. I just want everybody to
that's a great
understand.
answer.
That's
a great
what the
answer.
senior partner says.
Mr. Lampy,
Mr. Lean would have to go back to the office and then work on drafting that document.
I have some clarification on these civil plans. I was able to log into the back end of the system. So the civil plans in the portal and not made publicly available were from an earlier revision of the project. And there in my checklist review, there were items flagged for correction in terms of the likes of typos and the like. And I do not see that a revised set of civil plans was ever submitted. So that is the reason why they weren't put on the front end.
Okay. So, council, we can make that happen. We can get civil plans updated.
Yes.
And I certain aspects of this project we have to hear in a vacuum. When it comes to the variances that are requested, we have to hear those separately from what was previously approved. But, this is reality. So there's a base there already. You plan on building on the same base. So we're going to talk if it's structurally sound, whether you can just add 20 more stories on top of that. That's,
right.
Thank you, 21. That's a... That's a valid question for the board. So I don't think we're out of line asking for the structural or engineering report. And, as you stated, the report's done if your engineer is saying that it's sound. So we'd like to take a look at that report. Let's get all the civil plans up there, updated, make sure that they're available for the public and the board
And we'll
at
have
their
this-
own leisure to look at home,
Yes.
not in the planning department. Anything else that we're
I want to make sure that
missing?
anything that was submitted is accessible by both the board and the public, and I think staff and the applicant are going to have to work together to make sure, okay, here's what was submitted, let's make sure it's live public. And I guess from your point of view, Mr. Harrington, you guys have to try to log on as if you're a member of the public and not through whatever account you have set up that
Yeah, right. and that's-
misguides you as to what the public is able to see.
Just
I
for
guess.
my confirmation, that would be clicking the link on the agenda. Is that what the public sees?
Correct. And you can also, on the city planning homepage, there's a link to just the portal in general. And in lieu of logging into an account like you were an applicant submitting, you could just go into public search as an option on the homepage of the portal. And public search allows any member of the public to see various points of information about any planning, zoning, construction application ever submitted. Obviously, almost some of that information is available to the public by default, but the existence of every application plus some public information about its status, as well as any attachments that have been categorized as available online, are available for the public to view. And we use that public link as part of the link in our agenda on our noticing to direct members of the public and, in this case, members of the board as well.
That's where we
to materials.
That's where we look.
Okay.
And I guess, Mr. Harrington, and I'm curious from an applicant standpoint because I don't see it this way. When you log on and you're looking at your matters, I think you're looking at everything that you've submitted
That's right.
and believing maybe that everything that you've submitted is therefore viewable by the public. Do you get any kind of notification that, or any request to make this particular document public? Do you have to coordinate with staff to do something like that? Do you know?
No, we submit on Tyler and we have access to that. And it's my understanding whatever I submit on Tyler is going to be submitted or put onto the link and available for the public to review. I don't know if planning kind of parses that out and says, well, this is an old plan, I'm not putting it on. I'm not sure, but my understanding, whatever I put on there would be transferred over for the public to see. I don't get any notification that says this is now being put on Tyler or the portal.
Or
for
that
the
this is
agenda.
now available for the public
No.
to view?
I
Well,
just-
that begs a good question, counsel, in that, attorney representing client submits. Isn't there some discretion for the planning board to weed out the chaff from the wheat?
Yes and no, right? So this is the problem with the digital error. You cannot,
Boomer. Thanks, Boomer.
Maybe another way of phrasing it to make it easier is that, I mean, if planning deems something either inappropriate for whatever reason or in excess or excessive, do they not have discretion?
So, Mr.
it's a
Commissioner
question legally whether they have the discretion. If Mr. Harrington submits a rendering and he wants it to be part of the file and available for the public to view, planning does not have, the grounds to say we're not going to allow it to be viewed publicly. It's not part of your application. Mr. Harrington's position is going to be, I submitted it as part of my application. It's part of my application. Just like planning can't deny the public to see a particular document that is part of the application. So That's the only reason I say that. The problem with the electronic filing, in my general opinion, is it's an instant and it goes live, right? So it's like any other posting in the sense of once it's there, it's out. And if you uploaded the wrong document, you know, I have seen a lot of oopses happen live because you went to click on something and share your screen and it's your tax return, so.
But to that point, Matt, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I guess I'll provide some illumination to sort of how the process of document submittal and approval works. So the applicant submits documents, and then the planner reviews those documents, and we either label them as, complete by the standards of our LDO and the MLUL, and therefore moved over to the category where they're public available, or we note that they're somehow incomplete or deficient, and we flag them as required for resubmittal. And so when you flag something as required for resubmittal, it never moves over to the public side. And so in this case, we had flagged their initial civil engineering plans as required for submittal based on several items outlined in my checklist that I fill out and I give to every planner. And then it seems another set of civil plans was never submitted for me to review. And so that's how any set of civil plans never made it over to the public side.
Right, so I just want to see if I could square that with my round peg. Is that you're saying that earlier that a civil engineer report wasn't essential for the application, but for the code enforcers. But then at the same token, you're saying that you made it a requisite for this application to be complete.
I think you're confusing the report and the civil engineering plans. So the civil engineering plans is a standard item we ask for.
Okay.
The civil engineering report would be non-standard in this case, but if the board feels they need that information to make a full judgment about whether or not to grant a variance, the board can request that information.
And specifically relating to structure.
But Matt, I had a question regarding, and again, I think this is very educational for everybody, which is why I'm spending the time on it, Chairman.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a submission that needs to be resubmitted from an applicant, do you not get a notification on that particular file until a resubmission happens?
Yes, so if they submitted a new file, I would get an automatic notification telling me they submitted a new file.
And if they don't?
Nothing.
Right. So because you didn't respond to that, there was never a notification that you did respond to it, and the civil plans that you had submitted, which were not accepted and looking for additional comments, never got made public.
I'm learning a lot tonight too, because I have seen those, Tyler, where it says resubmittal, then I'll resubmit a plan. I don't get any further notification, so I'm assuming it's okay. And maybe that didn't happen in this case. I don't know, but it's like you said earlier. Sometimes I get these notifications. Are you ready to replace this one with this one? And I'm like, I'm not sure I want to hit this button right now, But yeah,
I'm with you 100%. I know when I sent the courier with the plans, like
I just assume, the fact that we were here before the board, that all was good. That no one said.
Chair, I just have a quick clarification. Where's Matt?
For Matt.
You turned around, Matt.
It's all right.
So the quick clarification that I just wanted to ask: when you review and you mark up the civil plans, were the client informed?
Yes. So in our established staff process, so when you mark an application as incomplete, there's an automatic notice. I also upload my checklist detailing the deficiencies in like a bullet point manner based on different categories. We have a standardized checklist form. And then often as a courtesy, in the automatic email which goes out, which will I will be CC'd on, as well as the attorney and any other professionals attached to the application. Often as a courtesy, I'll follow up with an email with a copy of that checklist and maybe some, specific larger tasks that I noticed or any further context that might be needed.
Yeah, there's a process that goes back and forth, the communication, open communication with the planning department, but
Sure.
Yeah.
sometimes, like I said, sometimes you open up the portal, you've got 20 items there, and you might see 3 sets of engineering plans, 3 sets of
Yes.
architectural plans, like which is the last one?
Yeah.
So it's all about trying to identify them, and really I thought, and sometimes I guess things fall through the cracks because we thought all was good because we were scheduled.
Yeah.
But that's not the case. So we have to fix that.
And to clarify, we thought all was good, so we were scheduled, and so there was a failure of process here. There was no malicious intent on either side, no intent to obfuscate. It was an honest mistake where, I think both sides failed to.
So how do we rectify it?
So before I complete,
yes.
I just want to thank you for your clarification on that, so that at least you acknowledged that your office was also informed. Thank you.
So, Council, I'm going to ask you to carry. I get no joy in asking you to carry. We're here tonight to hear this application. Members of the public are here tonight to hear this application. Obviously, your team is here to hear the application. We need to cross the T's and dot the I's here. So we need the information that we need.
I'd ask if it could be carried to April 22nd. Is that the second meeting?
Cam, we've mentioned that date, 3 times already tonight? I don't know.
It can be done, yeah.
We can.
He says enthusiastically.
Can we rectify all of this and get the structural engineering report in 10 days before?
Yes, that's
Okay.
We're going to work with Matt and cross our T's and dot our I's.
Yeah, we're going to make sure this is in perfect order before the board sees it again. Yeah. For both our sakes.
Cameron, there's another application that I'm thinking about that was carried from a prior meeting, and I'm hoping it's not April 22nd. And that was the...
Don't say it.
It is, yeah. There's 2 larger cases that night as well. It might be prudent to carry to the first meeting in May, honestly.
Yeah, you're behind that other case. So you can come, but you're not going to be heard.
We can't say that officially.
I can't imagine we get...
Unless the same thing happens that
You
happened
ain't on
last
that.
time. It's like,
Okay? Okay, put them on. As they say, we'll hear.
I don't want to drag down a million people that don't want to be here and sit here all night. I would prefer to go to this meeting in May.
So is the Bright Street is on for the 22nd? Is that the one?
Correct.
We said
Yes.
don't say it.
Oh,
But yes, correct.
But yes,
okay. If we get carried to the May meeting, can we get listed up top?
May 6th.
May 6th?
May 6th.
You're already under old business, so
Okay.
you can't really get closer to the front.
Yeah, so we'll carry to a date certain, May 6th, with preservation of notice, testimony taken. We'll put you right up top. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington.
All right, we're going to take a 10-minute break, everybody. I know we're early. Oh. Don't run, Mira. You're fine. Okay, let's call item 11 as case P2024-0127 is a preliminary and final major site plan with variances for One Journal Square, also known as 2965 Kennedy Boulevard.
Chairman, I'm sorry, I apologize. I don't mean to cut Chuck off here, but
fine.
I
He'll
understand
live.
we don't have a quorum for 772 West Side.
Oh, I did not know that. You're going to recuse?
I have to.
Okay. Okay. Cam. A lot of pressure
May
on you tonight,
6th.
Cam.
May 6th is the only thing that makes sense.
Okay. Okay, so we're going to carry case P23-024 as a preliminary and final major site plan with variances and minor subdivision for 772 to 788 West Side Avenue to a date certain May 6th with preservation of notice.
And the
Anybody that's in the room for that application, once again, this is your notice. You will not receive new notice for this. We will hear it on May 6th.
And the applicant does consent to the tolling of time to hear the application.
Okay, thank you, counsel.
Thank you.
Mr. Harrington, good evening again.
Good evening. For the record, Charles Harrington of Connell Foley on behalf of the applicant. This is a notice case, and I do have the originals to give to council.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Chairman, I received the affidavit of notice proof of publication with respect to the application at 2965 Kennedy Boulevard here in the city. It's block 9403, lot 14. It does appear to be in order. We're going to mark it as A1 for purposes of the record.
Thank you, counsel.
Okay, so just kind of an administrative matter. The agenda lists this as a preliminary and final site plan. We are only seeking preliminary final site plan as part of this application. And it is,
Did you just?
I'm sorry?
You misspoke. Then you just said preliminary, final major site plan. So it's just preliminary.
It's just preliminary.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
That's all right. You just took the and out. That was it.
Had marbles in my mouth.
That's okay. We'll get there.
So, yeah, we're seeking preliminary site plan approval only. This application was filed and deemed complete prior to the adoption of the amendments to the Journal Square plan in August. So it's been around for a while. So it is being presented under the prior zoning. We are seeking a 28-story mixed-use building with 657 residential units, ground floor retail, 2 stories of hotel uses, or commercial uses on the office bonus floors, and we have parking within this site. I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. It's the smaller building on the corner of Kennedy Boulevard and Cottage Street on the west side of Kennedy Boulevard. I think it was one of the first office buildings built there by Mr. Panapinto many, many years ago, just north of the former I always call it the ADP building. It's no longer, the sign's no longer there. But it is, you'll see that we are requesting some deviations as part of the application, and a large number of them are a result of the slope of the property, because it slopes down from Kennedy Boulevard to the west along Cottage Street. But it is a corner lot, so it does help in that regard with for the egress and ingress of the parking, which would not be off of Kennedy Boulevard, obviously. For the record, because it is on Kennedy Boulevard, this would be subject to the Hudson County Planning Board review as well, and that would be something that we would seek after this meeting in the event it's approved. So it is in Zone 3 of the Journal Square plan. That's why we're seeking the 28 stories. And I note, you'll see during the presentation, that 28 stories is an internal parking level. So we're not asking for any additional development than otherwise would be permitted with regard to the residential stories. So I have 4 witnesses tonight. My first one is our architect, Mr. Rodriguez. We thought he could take you through the site. It's probably a better presentation, and then we'll turn to the civil engineer, Eric Blue, and then Tom Carmen is our landscape architect, and then Sam Bellamy would follow up with regard to the deviations. So with that said, I'm going to bring up Mr. Rodriguez.
Good evening.
Swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth,
Right.
the truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
For the record, can you spell your name?
Juan Rodriguez, Juan Rodriguez.
Mr. Rodriguez, good evening. We've qualified you in the past. Your license is current tonight?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. You're qualified.
Good evening, everyone.
Before you start, if we could mark your slide deck as A2, and if you could identify that for the record?
Yes. So we've prepared
Yeah, it's not plugged in.
Yeah, we don't see it up there.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
You guys let me know when you could see it.
We have it.
Okay. All right. So we've prepared a series of slides consisting of 11 pages total. The majority of these slides, with the exception of the first sheet, are part of our site plan submission. There's one slide that has not been included as part of the publicly available documents, which is an aerial photograph showing the boundary of the site. So I'll just kind of just start here with this first slide, just to get you guys oriented. Chuck kind of already started letting you know where the project is. We're on the corner of JFK and Cottage Street. In this image, JFK is running left to right, north to south, and Cottage Street is running east to west along the bottom. The site is block 586.5, plot B, and it's just under an acre. The site contains currently about a 4-story commercial office building and some surface parking that cover the remainder of the site. This sheet is an elevation of the building as seen from Cottage Street. You'll notice that the project is, as Chuck already covered, it's within the Journal Square redevelopment plan. We're in Zone 3, and the project has been designed to be under the guise of the tower on a base zoning. The building form is conceived as 2 residential towers that come down onto a combined podium. And at the base of that podium, you have residential building lobbies, you have some retail space, you have some parking. There's also 2 stories of bonus hotel use, some residential, and then at the 8th floor, the buildings kind of break apart. There's a 50-foot separation between the 2 towers, and then the remainder of the project is all residential units. The total project consists of 657 residential units. Within that, the 2 towers and the podium, there's a total of 422,689 square feet of net residential area. As you see here in the building section, at the 3rd and 4th floor, where we have the extended stay hotel use, there's also 50,683 square feet of extended stay hotel. You'll see in the plans that the 2 uses are separated by 2 designated lobbies. So this is essentially a mixed-use development consisting of multifamily residential and the hotel. On the ground floor, I'll zoom in so you can see it better. We have double height retail and lobby spaces. Those spaces are going to have a height of about 26 feet. What we've done is create taller spaces along the street frontage. Behind those spaces, we were able to accommodate additional parking for the development, which is one of the variances that we have within our application. You'll see here, this is the kind of lower level cellar plan. On the left side of this page would be the kind of lowest point along Cottage Street, where we would be at about elevation 79. There's about a 1.5 story grade change around the perimeter of the corner, with the highest point being the southeast corner of JFK Boulevard. The area of this plan that's covered in this gray tone would be the portion of the building that is below the JFK kind of cottage grade, which you'll see the ground floor is set so that the first floor of the building is at the street elevation of JFK. So what we've done is to kind of preserve the public facing frontage along the areas that are above grade. We've located the parking and loading areas and some mechanical spaces at the kind of lowest point of the site to allow access into a kind of cellar level of parking. Within this parking garage, you could then get into multiple floors of stack parking within the building. There's also loading space right next to the parking garage entry as well. In the area that's below grade, we also have common mechanical, electrical, fire service rooms. There's also a combined bike storage room within the garage as well. You'll notice that the two building cores come down to this level. What we've done is locate the building trash rooms within the cellar. The thinking would be that both towers would have trash services come down to this level. All the trash would be collected within the building, and then it could be brought out to the loading space that I pointed to earlier. The retail trash is also envisioned to come down to this level, so none of those functions for trash removal are going to appear, on the street frontages. Everything is going to be handled internally to the building. So as I said earlier, the ground floor of the building has been kind of situated so that it's at the elevation of JFK, which is running along the right side of the page. Starting with this kind of corner, which would be the southeast corner closest to the PAF station. The building has been pulled back to allow for a 25-foot sidewalk. That sidewalk is covered by a portion of the building which overhangs onto the sidewalk. You're going to see a series of columns here that kind of break the width of the sidewalk. So that's another deviation which our planner will cover a little bit more, but essentially the columns are the only thing that would interrupt the overall width of the sidewalk. Where 20 feet of sidewalk is required, we're providing 25 feet, but it is going to be interrupted by a series of columns here along the street. Along that colonnade, there's about a 7,200 square foot retail space, which is going to be kind of wrapping the corner of JFK and Cottage. At the middle of the development, kind of midway of the lot, you're going to see a residential lobby. This lobby would be a kind of shared singular lobby for both buildings. From here, you could come up a series of steps or walk along the colonnade, and you could go to the left to the west tower, or you could go to the right to the east tower. Both towers would have shared package, mail, kind of mechanical services. It really is envisioned to be a single development, just consisting of kind of a two-tower mass. Also along this Cottage Street frontage, we've located the lobby for the extended stay hotel use as well. There is some internal parking that is located behind the lobby and retail uses. There's a portion of the parking that would be visible along Cottage. That parking would be masked by architectural facades similar to the rest of the buildings. At the second floor, we've continued the parking up to this level. In front of the parking, we have some indoor amenity space. That amenity space would be a kind of extension of the ground floor lobby with some potential for you to be able to look down and have a visual connection to the lobby with maybe a stair to bring you up onto this amenity floor. There's also about 3,500 square feet of retail area also connected to the retail space that's along JFK as well. At the third and fourth floor, the building, you start to see the building podium. The building kind of steps back from the south, allowing for windows to be located along the south frontage. We're also starting to set back and respect the bulk requirements of the Journal Square plan, including a rear point, 30-foot rear point setback along the southwest corner. It's the thinking was that this would be 2 floors of, again, hotel use. At this level, there would be some space, some outdoor terrace space, and some shared amenity deck space as well. On the 5th to 7th floor, the building podium shape continues up. We still have the same setbacks along the south side and the rear point. You'll also notice that there's a 50-foot separation between these two, the beginnings of these 2 tower elements. These floors contain residential units, and they kind of start to set up what happens with the towers up above. So this is a plan of the 8th floor, where the building towers start to really take shape for the first time. You'll see that from the west side, the building tower steps back 20 feet. It steps back again 20 feet along the south side lot line. And both towers step back 15 feet, both from the JFK lot line and the Cottage Street lot line. These bulk standards meet the intent of the Journal Square plan. On this floor, there's also some indoor amenity space and some additional outdoor landscaped areas that will be common for the building. This is the typical floor, which would be floors 9 through 28. You'll see that, again, we've envisioned this as 2 individual towers. They each have their own set of cores. They have residential units fully on all of these floors. The building towers, again, meet all the setback requirements around the full perimeter. They also are each within the kind of maximum allowable diagonal dimension of 180 feet. The west tower measures to its widest point 142 feet, 7 feet and 5/8 inches, and the east tower measures 148 feet, 0 foot and 1/2 inch. Within both buildings, there are, again, 657 residential units broken down as follows. We have 367 studios, which is 56%. We have 142 one-bedroom units, which is 22%. We have 133 two-bedroom units, which is 20%, and we have 15 three-bedroom units, which is 2% of the total. Just for reference, the West Tower has 310 units, the East Tower has 248 units. And this is a plan of the roof of the building. A big feature of the building is the fact that we wanted to be able to combine the 2 roof decks, which would be landscaped and available for tenant use, with a kind of combining sky bridge, if you will. So this would be an indoor amenity space of about 7,310 square feet. And this would allow you to walk from one side of the building to the other. And if you're a tenant here, you could have access basically to a contiguous roof amenity space through this bridge. Just circle back here. I'll just cover the parking a little bit more. So the total of the parking, we have 81 parking spaces that are all inside of the building. Out of those 81, 14 spaces will be equipped with an electrical vehicle charging station. And we also have 384 bike parking spaces for the project. So that includes my testimony. I'm happy to go back and answer any questions that you guys may have.
All right, thank you, sir. I know it's going to come up again in planning testimony, but can we go over the loading spot where it's head in, back out?
Yes, we're here on the cellar floor. The loading space here, which is it's about 35 feet deep, it's about 17 feet wide, will allow trucks to back into this loading space and back out, to load the building.
Back in or back out?
They would back in and head out.
And then
Sorry.
head out.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, the way Matt, and I apologize, the staff report reads pull in and back out. So back in and head out is a big change. That's a big difference for me, so. Okay. Anybody else? Any questions right now?
I have a question, but. In the transportation memo, they just made a question about door access to the bike parking area and seeing if you could locate one off of the elevator.
Yeah, I did see that note, and we could accommodate that.
Yeah, I would say that it should be done from probably near both elevator banks. I think they where your hand's hovering, they identified that one, but you probably should put one on the other as well.
I agree. That makes sense.
Yep.
We can make that change.
Yeah, okay, thanks.
All right, anybody else? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Our next witness will be the civil engineer, Mr. Baloo.
Swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
For the record, can you state, spell your name?
Eric Ballou, E-R-I-C, Ballou, B-A-L-L-O-U.
Mr. Baloo, good evening. Your license is current tonight?
It is, and in good standing.
Okay, thank you. You're qualified.
Thank you very much. All right. Okay, so I'm advancing to the rendered landscape plan L1. So I guess would this be exhibit A3?
This would be A3.
A3, okay, great. So what this shows is it shows the illustrative landscape plan of the lower level of the project. What I'm going to focus on, you already know the project, I'm going to focus on some of the deviations sort of related to the civil related items. One is regards to
Yes, it is.
You're right. So I'll use the first sheet, then the landscape architect can walk through the remaining 5 pages. Okay, thank you. I'm going to start with the loading area. The one of the deviations is we talked about the turn back in and then pull out. The other relief we're requesting is the ordinance requires 40 feet of length, where we're at 35 feet of length, which we feel is appropriate because we would anticipate things like a box truck, like a 30-foot wide truck. The longest U-Haul is approximately 26 feet. So we are requesting a relief from 40 feet to 35 feet in length for the loading area. Also, the way the ordinance reads, you would be required for this building to have 2 loading areas. We are requesting a deviation to allow 1 loading area based upon the control that the applicant has to monitor move in, move outs, and other activities. They felt that 1 would be sufficient to handle the needs of this project. Staying within that same area, there's a driveway width. So the way the ordinance is written, you're allowed a maximum driveway width of 18 feet. So the situation that we have, which is common, is that we actually have access into the garage. Then adjacent to that, we have access into the loading area we just spoke of. So that total width to accommodate both of those uses is 43 feet. Right now, in perspective, there's actually 2 curb cuts already for our frontage out there that allows access into the parking area. So, which would be approximately 44 feet of curb cut. We're going to be approximately 43 feet of curb cut. So we believe this design is appropriate and safe, and the 18 is really minimizing the amount of width really necessary for these activities. In regards to the project, right now it's almost virtually all impervious. You have building combined with the surface parking lots is about 96% impervious. But with that said, though, we're actually installing a stormwater management detention system combined with green roof. So we'll be reducing our stormwater rates for the 50% for the 2-year, 75% for the 10, and 80% of the 100-year storm systems. So we will be reducing the storm sewer volume coming off of the site from a rate perspective. Other civil items, we did receive a Jason Way review letter. As always, we will address those comments. There was also the traffic review letter, talked about having a bump out. And I think the purpose of that is that along our frontage on Cottage Street, there's a right turn lane and a left turn lane onto JFK. They want us to place a bump out on Cottage Street to ensure that cars don't start parking within those turning lanes. So we would agree to accommodate that. And then, this project is good. It's actually out of the flood zone, so there's no green area ratio requirements to be addressed. So it's actually a very high and dry part of the city, which is excellent. As far as direct, Chuck, that's what I have right now for my direct from a civil perspective.
Okay, yeah, I have no further questions. I don't know if the board has any.
Yeah, just one question. In terms of the stormwater retention percentage changes, how does that work? I just can't vision that.
Definitely. So what we do is we have, the green roofs, act more like regular soil than pavement, so that reduces the flow. Then the stormwater, what happens is the roof water is collected. It goes into storage volumes underneath the garage portion. And then we have controlling orifices that only allow a certain rate of that stormwater to leave the site. So therefore, by holding back the water and releasing it slowly, it's beneficial to meet downstream requirements.
All right, anybody else?
I have one question. Just looking at this image, there's like a row of head-in parking spots that look like they're being cut off. That must have been what on the facts on the ground must have been part of the parking lot for this site, but now they'll be cut off. Is that off-site, and what's gonna happen with that area?
Right. How about these?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are off-site, so they would have to be adjusted on the opposite property.
How are they accessing those currently?
There is a drive aisle through our parking lot, so it looks like they're being accessed possibly through that at this time.
I think it's under common ownership, but I don't know.
I believe, isn't that the access drive to the garage?
The future garage?
No, the existing garage.
No, I think what you're looking on the other side of what looks like a wall, that's probably the access drive to the garage.
These spaces here.
So, but I don't know. You'll figure it out.
It's a legitimate question. Sure. Mr. Harrington.
Is that part of the property?
I'm assuming that you guys might be over the property line with those parking spots, but facts on the ground looks like you probably access them from your site. I'm not incredibly surprised.
All right, so I guess
or maybe the image is not showing correctly,
right, so
scaled correctly.
What is on the screen, Mr. Harrington? Mr. Harrington.
Yes. All right. So I've now put up the site plans that were submitted.
Okay.
Yeah, if Juan can address it.
Sure,
I
absolutely.
just want to clarify, if you go back to that landscape plan.
Can we mark what was just placed on the screen that everybody just saw? Mr. Harrington?
That is
let's do that
that's
first.
part of his civil plans. But we can mark it if you'd like.
Let's just do it for the record. A4 is the, go back to
the survey. Mr. Ballou?
It wasn't a survey. It was the site plan set, which is an existing condition plan, which represents the existing survey of the property.
And, you'll see here on the survey, those spaces that we were just looking at on the left side of the property, they're actually on our site. So if you go back to the landscape plan.
Wait, can we zoom in on this for 1 second, please?
Zoom in on that.
All right, so these spaces here are up against our western property line. They're on our site. So you see the two spaces back to back.
Mm-hmm.
There's a graphic issue in this landscape plan. It's to the right scale, but the plan is actually justified to the right. You see how it kind of like goes into the kind of JFK right away a little bit. So this whole plan should actually be shifted about 20 feet to the left on top of this Google Earth background.
So those cars that are parked in those spaces,
Those are the spaces that are on our property and appear here on the survey.
Yep.
And the other
That makes
spaces.
sense.
and those spaces will be eliminated by the development, and those spaces are related to this property and only this property.
That's correct.
It's not a question of common ownership. Whatever's on the west side of the wall is on the west side of the wall.
That's
That
right.
wall is kind of the property line.
That's right. They'll go away.
And the spaces that are on the western side, they do have their own independent curb cut off of Cottage Street. So where there's no change of access to existing spaces to the west, for clarity.
Right.
All right, sorry.
No, actually,
Makes sense.
Actually, thank you. Actually, that was good.
Okay, anything from Mr. Blue? Okay, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, then I'm going to continue with Mr. Carmen, who's our landscape architect, and he can walk you through the plans and explain that as well, how it's a little off-center.
I can. Good evening.
You swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And for the record, can you please spell your name?
Sure. Thomas S. Carman, C-A-R-M-A-N.
Mr. Carmen, we've qualified you numerous times as well. Your license is current tonight?
It is current.
Okay, thank you. You're qualified.
Thank you very much. Yes, so I'm going to refer to the package that was just reviewed, which is A3, and utilizing this first drawing, L1, as just clarified by both the architect and the civil engineer. Yes, this graphic does show the overall landscape plan superimposed on top of a Google aerial. And the whole landscape plan is shifted a bit to the east, which is having the confusion that Matt had indicated. So overall, the overall site and landscape plan fit within the property area. That is just the one discrepancy right there, and I apologize for that. So I'll give you an overview of the street level landscape plan, then we'll make a quick run up through the exterior amenity spaces. But on Cottage itself, there are 5 proposed street trees, and on JFK Boulevard, there are 4. The street tree pits, the planting, the dimensions of the tree pits are all in compliance with the forestry standards. Sidewalk treatments are in keeping with city requirements for Journal Square redevelopment area, as well as the JFK Streetscape Boulevard standard requirements. There are 4 bike racks proposed along the frontage to accommodate 8 bikes. And then central to Cottage, you heard earlier about the plaza space that's on the north. There are some steps that lead up to that area. It's just a natural extension of the interior lobby. And to the east, there is an on-grade access, ADA accessible, being that Cottage does slope down. Within that plaza area, there are a couple of ornamental trees, and then there are some seating as well. The lighting along Cottage and JFK Boulevard intended to remain and in compliance with current standards. Moving up to, jumping up to the second image within this 6-page set. This is drawing L6, and this is up at the 3rd floor. So this exterior amenity space allows access out onto it, where there are a few barbecue grills, some outdoor lounge seating opportunities, and some game tables. There are also some private terraces for those units that front on that level. Moving up to the next level, here we are now, just as drawing L7, and we're on the 8th floor. So here again, some connecting the two towers, there is an exterior amenity space, lounge seating, barbecue grilling, any of the outdoor grill areas or fire pits include the code compliant emergency shutoffs. Moving up to the upper level, this is up at that 28th floor. So the Tower 1, which is the tower on the west side, a dog run proposed, some outdoor lounge seating, a children's play area, and then just a turf panel on the north side. The tower on the east side includes, again, some lounge seating, barbecue grilling, and then a raised pool area, pool terrace with ADA access and stair access up to that raised pool. On top of the bridge connection that you heard testimony on, there is extensive green roof throughout the lower levels that I just spoke about, the 3rd floor, the 8th floor, and the 28th. That's all intensive green roof profile, so a little bit of a deeper soil depth. Up on this extensive is the more shallow 4-inch soil profile. The last image that I have is just an overall composite graphic that layers in all of the levels of the rooftop. And I should note that this image is also slightly skewed to the to plan east. That provides an overview of the landscape lighting and exterior amenity improvements.
All right, thank you, Mr. Carmen. The Cottage Street Plaza, is that open to the public or no?
That is. So access up the stairs as well as I indicated, that ADA access under the colonnade.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Questions? All right, thank you, Mr. Carmen.
Thank you.
Okay, and then my last witness is Mr. Bellamy, who will address the requested deviations.
Swear any testimony you give tonight's going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
For the record, can you state and spell your name?
Sure. Samuel Bellamy, last name Bellamy.
Mr. Bellamy, good evening. Your license is current tonight?
Good evening. Yes, current and in good standing.
Okay, thank you. You're qualified.
All right. So, getting into the deviation relief tonight, there are several deviations we're requesting. One for the building height in stories and feet, other related to the loading requirements mentioned, and then several deviations related to the parking garage frontage along Cottage Street. This property is located in Zone 3 of the redevelopment plan area. I do find that all the deviations overall can be granted pursuant to the redevelopment plan due to the uniqueness of this lot and the topographic conditions, the significant slope down Cottage Street, as well as the benefits of the deviations would outweigh any detriments here. Getting into the building height to start off with, we are requesting 28 stories and 302 feet 10 inches. That's where 27 stories and 293 feet are permitted with the office space bonus. So we're asking for an additional story, which is the 2nd floor mezzanine parking level, as well as the additional feet in height here. The project is utilizing the office space bonus floors on the 3rd and 4th floor of the building. The ground floor will largely be retail space and the lobbies for the residential use and the hotel use, as well as the parking garage entrance. And then the 2nd floor above has those mezzanine levels for the residential amenity space, the retail mezzanine, as well as the 2nd level, the parking here. Overall, the base of the building does comply. The base height of the building is in compliance with 85 feet proposed and 88 feet permitted. What's really equaling this additional height that we're requesting is due to that 2nd floor mezzanine level. It's been designed to really be incorporated and appear as a 1-story first floor of the building when viewing from all the frontages, and that's due to having the setback allowing for the mezzanine level. So when viewing from Kennedy and Cottage, it has the appearance of a 1-story structure containing both the 1st and 2nd floor levels. In addition, we do have the building overhang here that starts on the 3rd floor. So again, that kind of gives the appearance of a 1-story base, if you will, that contains both both the levels. Overall, the residential floor-to-ceiling heights all comply with the minimum and maximum standards here. We do have a slightly greater floor heights on the 7th and 8th floors. That's due to the transfer slabs going from your base to the residential tower, as well as the amenity space that's proposed on the 8th floor, and a little bit of increased floor-to-ceiling height there to accommodate that space. We are requesting a minimum floor-to-ceiling height deviation for the ground floor. Again, that's related to having the second floor level mezzanine portion of the building. So some of the spaces within the ground floor have a 9-foot floor-to-ceiling height, where 10-foot floor-to-ceiling height, where 20 feet is required. But overall, the retail spaces and lobby generally have a combined height of 26 feet, a double height ceiling for the front portions of those spaces. As mentioned, we do have a significant drop off in the grade here that occurs along Cottage Street, about probably 3/4 of the way down Cottage Street, dropping the elevation from about 90 feet at the corner down to 78 feet along the western side lot line. Okay. Overall, the next deviation I'll cover is the maximum tower diagonal deviation we're requesting. So that, as Juan mentioned, the residential amenity space on the upper floor has a maximum diagonal of 231 feet 9 inches, where a maximum of 180 feet is permitted. The towers themselves both comply with the maximum 180 foot diagonal dimension. They're at 143 feet and a max of 148 feet, respectively. The towers also meet the minimum separation distance. So here we have 2 towers on one property. The minimum separation between them is 50 feet, and that's being proposed here. Overall, the project itself is complying with all the other setback and step back standards of the plan. We actually have some increased step backs for the towers, where 20 feet is proposed along the side lot lines. This property is a little bit unique, where it's completely surrounded by Zone 3 properties, so there's no lower density zone adjacent to us here that would kick in an additional step back above that base side yard setback. We do have a minimum sidewalk width deviation that occurs along Kennedy Boulevard. That's related to the columns that come down for the upper floor overhangs of the base. Overall, the sidewalk width is predominantly 25 feet, but where those columns do come down, it reduces the sidewalk width to about 12 feet from the edge of the column to the edge of the curbing. Overall, I don't think the building columns interfere with the pedestrian circulation here. We're actually proposing a wider sidewalk, 25 feet, where 20 feet is required. And then we're improving the conditions that currently occur on the site. There's a wall and steps that you currently access to get up to the office level building. We do have several deviations related to the parking garage frontage, and also maximum non-active street frontage. We're asking for a maximum of 23%, or 96 feet 8 inches of consecutive linear feet. And that's the loading area, the garage entrance, and then some mechanical space along the Cottage Street frontage. That all occurs to the western end of the site, where that drop-off in grade does occur. So I think it's a logical location to have the garage entrance and really those consolidated types of uses. It allows for a complete retail frontage along Kennedy Boulevard where it's required, and then even wrapping along to Cottage Street, we continue the retail frontage into the residential and hotel lobbies. A couple more deviations. We have a maximum driveway width, 43 feet proposed, where 18 feet is required. Our engineer really covered the testimony, and I agree with his testimony. We're consolidating the curb cuts here, and again, we're locating them in an appropriate location, and it provides for the driveway, garage, and loading access. I will mention that the loading doors themselves are both have a width of 15 feet, so they do tailor down to be consistent with with the 18-foot requirement there, I think meeting the intent of the redevelopment plan. With respect to the loading requirements, I won't add too much testimony onto what the engineer covered. Again, I think this location in front of the garage, the Cottage Street does widen, so it allows for a little bit more space for maneuvering for the, deliveries, loading vehicles, and garbage pickup to occur. I think without interfering with the vehicular traffic along Cottage Street here. As I said, overall, I think the benefits here outweigh the detriments. We're also promoting the purposes of the municipal land use law. This is an appropriate use and development of the site, a mixed-use building in a prominent location. We provide for adequate light, air, and open space consistent with Purpose C, and then it is an appropriate location in the Journal Square plan for this mixed-use building consistent with Purpose G. I don't see any substantial detriment to the general welfare here. Again, the building's largely in compliance with all setback and step back standards. As the building was designed thoughtfully with the core in the center, we have active frontages on all sides. And I think that really speaks to this prominent location and providing a visually attractive building in the Journal Square area. Likewise, don't see any impairment to the intent and purpose of the zone plan or zoning ordinance. This is directly in line with the purpose of Zone 3 and would promote the purposes of the redevelopment plan and master plan. With that, I think this project meets both the positive and negative criteria, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the board might have.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bellamy. And counsel, I wanted to hear Mr. Bellamy's testimony. That was a tough one for me. I wanted to hear that testimony on the loading zone before I dug into this. If we could, between all your witnesses, maybe just walk us through how a loading day would occur. So a truck pulls in from JFK onto Cottage. How is it going to back into that spot?
So, so I think if a truck is coming from JFK, whether they're making this left, going north, or
either way, yeah,
they could drive down, kind of to where this curb starts to taper in.
You want to put up the ground floor?
I thought I could cover it here, but probably better. Just the last plan had the rest of the curb, but basically I think that a truck could go ahead into Cottage, moving to the left, and then they could back into there's enough width here as covered by Sam, so that they could back into this loading space. Whether it's if they're bringing in trash from 3-yard bins into the back of the truck, or if they're, someone's loading and moving into the building, those operations could happen internal to the building. And then at that point, they would, the head of the truck would be, facing the street, and then they could just drive out and then make that right back out to Cottage and then get out onto JFK.
Is there a traffic study that shows the turning radius for a truck? Right there. I'm a little concerned with, that truck crossing onto the wrong side of Cottage Street to back in.
Do we have a turning template, counsel?
I don't know if we prepared one. I don't believe we got any comment from Jersey City Traffic.
What's the largest truck that you expect to be doing that?
I think that there were
truck?
I think that the garbage truck would probably be the biggest truck.
Or trailers or anything like
No
that.
trailers.
Would never do that.
Yeah,
That
no.
would never fit in that garage space.
Yeah, this
U-Hauls are
pretty long.
U-Hauls are on the table here.
Yeah.
I know 26 foot was mentioned before. That's the size of the box, correct? That's
Yeah,
not
like
the
a
overall
25
truck.
foot, 26 foot. That's probably standard to the majority of moving operations.
Sure.
Now, the other drawing you had cars parked, right? Because of across the street you have a very busy food supply chain. So these cars are permanently parked on that side of the street, on the north side.
Yes. So, I think that the simplest thing to do would be to we could prepare a turning template if that's required. I think that there is enough width here in Cottage Street to accommodate the maneuver. I'm sorry? I was just wondering if, Eric, do you have a turning?
No, there's no turning.
Okay.
So council, why don't we go through what the requirement is for the loading zone? So obviously the requirement was 2, we're providing 1. It's my opinion that it's supposed to be head in and head out in a continuous motion.
That is the regulation within the Journal Square plan, but I don't think there's any properties, or if there are any properties, there are very few that can accommodate that, because you're trying to, it has to be big enough to go through the property, or a through lot. I don't know if like the Kushner, the KRE buildings have that, but I know I have not worked on any project in the Journal Square area that has the capability of doing that. A lot of them don't even have loading zones, as the board's aware, because we end up putting loading on the street because traffic has advised that they prefer that you just create a loading zone on the street. But here we're trying to create it off obviously off the street. I mean, this part of Cottage Street, obviously I'm not a traffic engineer, but I think we all know that it's not a very busy portion of Cottage Street.
Yeah.
But we do not have a turning radius. I mean, and I remind you that this is a preliminary site plan approval. So when we come back, we still have to, in the event it's approved, we have to go to the county planning board, and see what their comments are.
But if we grant that variance tonight, we're stuck with that variance, even if we don't like the turning radius, the turning template.
That is correct, council.
That is correct. I mean, it's the alternative is to not have a loading zone in the building, because you're not going to do access off of Kennedy Boulevard.
No. I'm concerned about that turn on Cottage Street. I'm concerned about the truck driving onto the wrong side of the road. I don't know that the deviation is worth that. I don't know if the case is there for it. Anybody else? Any concerns here?
Agreed on the concern. Yeah, I agree. I've seen too many times where on paper it looks okay, but in practical application it can become problematic. So I'd like to see a little bit more information about that.
I think we could provide that, and we'll review it more. I think if you consider the placement of the loading zone now, I think it's in the area that's least impactful on the site. Starting with the frontage that we have for retail, wrapping along JFK. I don't think that, anyone wants to see any loading access on JFK. We're using the 2/3 of the frontage along Cottage for, more public-facing uses. The building lobbies are located there. So I think we've placed it in probably the best spot. We just maybe have to do a little bit more homework to prove out that the maneuvering on the street won't negatively impact the rest of the traffic flow. I think that the deviations are for the amount of loading spaces, which we actually have one less than what's required. So I think granting of the deviation would actually support lesser impact, and then the depth of the loading space. We have maximized it to allow for the building core. It's more of like an internal thing, but it does allow for the building core to end up in the right spot in relation to the overall building form. So I think if we were to be more compliant, we would actually be required to have more loading spaces, which would, be even more of an issue.
It just a thought, maybe qualify if the board were to approve the deviation for the number of loading spaces and having the requirement that you go in and out, that you could grant the deviation with the condition that when we come back on final site plan, we have to demonstrate that the alternative is a better option that needs to be approved by the board. And that allows us to take another look at the internal circulation of the garage. Maybe we take it inside and we have turns inside,
Yeah, I think that the deviation now is to have less loading spaces than what's required, so that's what we're seeking relief from.
But make it clear that any approval would require us to come back on final approval and have the board approve that.
But I don't think we're ready to get there. Doesn't sound that way to me, Mr. Harrington. Sounds like they want to see it now. And Chairman, for clarification, is it, and to help the applicant, is it a question of whether we get loading on the street with a drop-off and address the number and size of the curb cut? Is that something that we're contemplating, or?
I have more of a problem with the mechanics of the trucks getting in and out of that loading zone than I do with the amount of loading space deviation. From a safety standpoint, a loading zone on the street to me is safer than this situation right now.
But this is a dead end down there, right?
This is a dead end.
There's
still
a
significant
small
traffic
alley
that goes into the bank.
but
That's that other parking lot.
But if a truck pulls down, other than make this
Oh,
turn, I don't know how they turn around on cottages.
Well, they see, but it's a wide street, and right now they're doing it. When they have that business across the street that has trucks all the time coming in and out, there is a large food distribution company right on directly across the street, and that's the corner. When I go down there, that's the corner they're using.
Yeah.
And trucks are doing that turn as of right now.
Where?
On Cottage Street.
They're going down.
They're going down, they're back, doing a back way, go with it, and then turning back out again. They're unloading. They're unloading on Cottage Street.
Right.
And they're unloading on Kennedy Boulevard.
But if they make either a left or right off Kennedy, doesn't really matter.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
They're on Cottage Street facing west. How are they getting out of Cottage Street when they come back? How do they come back east?
They're
They turning in one of
they're
these
turning
parking
into an
lots?
alley, or they're turning into
An existing parking lot, perhaps.
Yes, that's what they're doing.
But that'll be
And
gone.
And the large trailers that I've seen are backing out backwards out of that. For that business across the street, they're coming out backwards out of there.
So I don't want to create
I don't
that.
think we
I know, I understand what you're
I don't want to
saying.
create that problem.
I understand what
in
you're
front
saying,
of this
but can a
board.
truck make a turn?
It's not for me to decide or us to
But
decide.
that's the concern.
They're doing it
Yes.
now.
Also, we don't want to
I don't want to make it worse.
make it,
I agree.
right?
But I'm just going to say for the record that it's better than hopefully not losing that loaded dock area, because basically right now, that's what the problem is. There is no loaded dock for any other business, and you have all these trucks parking right on the sidewalks, right on the street.
Which is why I wanted to clarify it
Yes,
for
I understand.
the applicant, obviously, because Mr. Harrington, I don't know if you were listening to some of the general concern, right? So the general concern going down Cottage is it's a dead end.
Right.
So if a truck were to turn onto Cottage, they got to get off of Cottage somehow. We understand that trucks are now turning onto Cottage, loading and unloading in relation to a business across the street. Somehow those trucks, after they unload or load on Cottage, are turning around. Sounds like they may be doing it in a parking lot, because I don't think they're making K-turns on Cottage Street.
Well, yeah.
It's not that big.
There's a truck right here in this Google Earth image. It's doing something.
There is a small street I know down to the right that takes you out to North Avenue.
Herbert Place.
Yeah, I don't know how wide that is, but that
Oh, it
that
gets
does
narrower.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Because you
a
have
one way. Yeah.
JFK, it comes two lanes, one to make the left turn and one to make the right. But once you go past that, going further west, gets
So I
narrow.
think that's why we have to have loading happening on-site and off the street, I think.
Yeah,
I
and
think that's what
and
the
we
board's-
could we could have it off-site, I mean, in the building, within the garage area and figure out the mechanics of that. Is that?
Yeah, that's what we were just talking about. We have to look at, some head heights, ceiling height issues and stuff like that, but if that's what the board recommends, then, we'll find a way to try to get it to work.
And that way you're not doing the mechanics of the turnaround on Cottage Street. You
Mhm.
would be making a left into the garage.
Yes.
And then you have to,
Yeah, you're going to be, at that point, the loading truck will be heading out and then making that right to get back onto JFK.
That's how, Juan would, figure it out with Mr. Baloo, how we can make that happen. But as, a condition of approval, we could have that is a requirement that the loading and unloading has to be done within the building.
I want to see it.
And,
True.
we'll clear that all up when we come back for final. Any other revisions will be clarified, that are needed to meet that.
I just don't know if we can approve something with a variance that we plan on pulling back later. That's,
Well, I think
and that's a
it-
legal question for,
I think you can approve it, subject to your review and approval of the final design at final site plan. If I was here asking for final site plan, I think it's a different story. But
yeah, absolutely.
we're still coming back to you. You still get the discretion to review and approve that.
Agree or disagree?
I don't agree because we've got a loading situation that there's an issue with that the board is not going to give a deviation or variance relief to without it being determined what that relief would be. It can't be conditioned on the future design of it.
Well, I
Because what you're asking for is that this be approved and that we revisit it in the future at final. And I just don't agree with that.
What I'm hearing is that the board does not like the situation presented because of the turning movements. You also don't like the idea of on-street parking because if it's a dead-end street, you're still going to have turnaround movements on Cottage Street.
Sure.
So the solution would have it within the building, and to have it within the building, then those deviations I think are justified to grant, but with the condition that we want to see you come back here at final, and we'll tell you if we like the solution. So. I mean, I think you can. I think you can grant the deviation.
Well,
because it is only preliminary.
We can't grant the head in, head out, obviously.
Right. That's what I'm hearing.
We're going to pull that.
Yeah, we'd
I'm
pull that.
hearing that it's got to be designed, and it's not designed. So what was proposed and what was presented is what it is. The board has concerns about it that obviously the applicant is not able to answer tonight. So it may be that a turning template answers that question and the applicant decides that this is the best solution, and maybe the board agrees with that. Or maybe the answer is that it does have to be internal and there's a redesign that has to happen to make that happen. So, Chairman, my legal advice to the board is let's figure it out now, not potentially in the future, because we don't know and we don't have the information to make that informed determination other than to say, this at best is problematic.
Sure.
As it stands, but maybe not.
So my question is, this is a preliminary site plan. This isn't a preliminary and final. let's say they come back with a design that is just I love this expression, a concept of a plan, where they say we can accommodate a drive-through loading, head in, head out.
Yes.
Internal to the building. But we don't have the final mechanics of it. Does that satisfy a preliminary site plan?
Variances are variances, deviations are deviations. Once you grant it, you can't grant the deviation with conditions as to what that variance is going to look like or what that deviation is going to look like.
I agree. I'm saying that.
So you either
Let's say
grant
the
the
applicant-
deviation for this loading space with this idea that in the future it's
That's-
going to be worked out.
No, I want to see, at the bare minimum, just a design of a head in, head out
You want
loading
alternatives?
situation. Not right this second, obviously. We need
But
to.
do you want to see a turning template for this space and a head in and head out concept?
I just want to clarify with the turning template issue. I think that what you were looking for is a turning template of what's happening on Cottage. I think at the end of the day, we know that it's for that truck to back into the space as we have a design, it's going to be crossing a lane. So even
That's
if we
a
show that
concern.
turning template, it's not going to satisfy the
Yeah,
board.
I don't
think
know that satisfies us.
Yeah. So and I
Okay.
I think on our side we're in agreement with that. I think
Okay.
that what is left to do is for us to look at an alternative where we remove the loading dock as we have it now, and then show this kind of internal mechanics of how the truck could make that maneuver inside. Can we keep the parking, count intact, like that kind of stuff? I think that looking at the plan, I'm confident we could get that to work inside of the building and solve the issue so the truck heads in and heads out the right way.
Yeah,
So-
yeah, at this point, I hear council, I hear the board, we're at the goal line, but we're not there yet. We need
Close.
we need the tush push of the
Yeah.
Philadelphia Eagles here. But I think will give us some time to look at this, and I'd respectfully request that we could be carried to a date certain, maybe the first meeting in May. So that gives us time to look at this and get back to planning and to the board. I didn't even want to throw out the April date. So
No, that would have been, we're voting on it tonight.
2026 is open in April if you. Just joking.
I mean, does that work? Is it because you want us to come back, right?
I think that's appropriate. So Cam, you tell me if we can't make the 6th work,
Yeah,
you just
we're filling up the 6th.
I know. And I don't know what's
May
on these
27th.
agendas.
Oh, okay.
I know what the next date is after this.
Okay. Yeah. Well, strangely, it goes 3 weeks. Normally, it would be 2. I don't know why that actually happened, but
Memorial Day.
oh, there we go. Okay. So,
That's still a holiday?
anyway, yeah, May 6th or May 27th. May 6th, while it's still fresh in our heads. Let's go. May 6th.
Okay.
Day after Cinco de Mayo.
May 6th, all right. Yeah, it gives us a couple hours to recover from Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, let's call it May 6th. Carry to May 6th, please.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. I want to get something done tonight. No.
No motion.
You want a break?
No motion.
We should have a motion.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to carry case P2024-0180. I'm sorry, I just read the wrong.
Chair would like to make a motion to carry case P2024-0127 to a date certain, May 6th, 2025.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Can you start with Commissioner Lipsky, please?
Yeah, Commissioner Lipsky.
Aye.
All right, thanks, Steve.
Acting Chair Gangadin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Prinzari. Commissioner Torres.
Aye.
Chairman Langston.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. We're going to take two, literally two. Okay. 0013 is a minor subdivision for 22 Bergen Avenue.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Rebecca Maioriello. I'm an attorney at Connell Foley, and we're here tonight for application P 2025-0013 on behalf of the applicant 22-24 Bergen Ave LLC. I'm going to take from a checkism at the last hearing and say this is a notice case. So I would like to mark the notice that I prepared for this case with a cover letter dated March 17th, 2025. This was also uploaded to the Tyler portal, Council.
With respect to the application at 22-24 Bergen Avenue here in the city, it does appear to be in order. We can mark it as A1 for purposes of the record.
Thank you. So this property is located at 22-24 Bergen Avenue. It's a single tax lot designated as Block 24902, Lot 2.01. This property is located within the R3 zone. It is a vacant lot currently, and the applicant is here tonight seeking a minor subdivision to subdivide the single lot into two conforming lots. The proposed lots were proposed to be designated as Lot 2.02 and 2.03. Just for a few housekeeping items, we received approval from Hudson County for the subdivision on February 20th, 2025, or rather an exemption letter from the county. And we're also in receipt of the planning board report, of the planner's report dated March 19th, 2025, and we agree to all the conditions stated therein. We have one witness tonight as our project surveyor, Mr. Jeremy Clapper, and he's right here. So, oh, sorry.
You swear any testimony you give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
For the record, can you state your name?
Jeremy Clapper, Klapper. I assume you don't need my first name. And yes, my license is active and in good standing.
Thank you. Mr. Clapper, can you please just give the board an overview of the current conditions of the site?
Okay, presently this is a vacant lot. It's 50 feet across, approximately 100, on average 112 feet in depth. And it possesses 5,623 square feet of area in land.
And what are the proposed conditions that would occur if this board were to grant this subdivision?
So in the proposed, and I'll try to scroll it over so you guys could see, we're going to create two 25-foot lots, and they're going to be 110 feet in depth approximately. Some a little larger based on that Bergen Ave is going on askew. None of the lots, I think lot 2.02 is going to be 2,800 square feet, and the other one's going to be 2,700 square feet. And none of the lots will have a variance associated with them.
Thank you. I submit if this board has any questions for my witness.
Okay, thank you, counsel. Is there a curb cut involved or no?
So presently there is an existing 17-foot wide curb cut. I don't know what they propose, but I think that's kind of out of my purview.
So with this current application, the applicant doesn't have any current plans on what he's going to do with this property. whether he's going to conform with the R3 zone or, if there's any deviations that may be required, we'll be back before this board, of course.
Sure.
Should that be needed. But as your planner report noted, that should we not propose any changes to the curb cuts, which we are not at this juncture, they are okay as is. But of course, if the applicant were to modify it, they have to be compliant with the requirements in the R3 zone. And if they're not, then we would need to be before this board again.
Okay, so if the curb cut was to remain, we have no problem with that. If there is a change, we would want a shared curb cut for both properties. Okay, that's acceptable?
Yes, that was noted in your planner report, and that's perfectly acceptable to the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else?
As of right now, the curb cut looks from the photo that it favors more of one property than the other property.
Mhm.
It favors the property towards other. If you're looking at it face to face, the property on the right side has most of the curb cut on it compared to the photo that you in the exhibition. So yeah, it would have to be put into the center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If they changed it. Maybe only one of those properties gets a curb cut or gets a driveway. Okay. Thank you. If there's no other questions, I'll open it up for public. Okay, is anybody here from public that wants to comment?
Chair, see no one for public. I would like to close the public portion.
Second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Public is closed. Anything you want to add?
Yep. The proposed minor subdivision appears to comply with all development standards in the R3 zone, and staff recommends approval.
Okay, thank you.
Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve case P 2025-0013 as presented to the board, together with staff recommendation and approval.
Second.
Okay, motion is made and seconded for approval.
Okay. Acting Vice Chair Gangadin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Prince Avery.
Aye.
Commissioner Torres.
Aye.
Commissioner Lipsky.
Council, on your inaugural visit to our sacred chamber, you did a heck of a job. I vote aye.
Thank you.
And Chairman Langston.
Aye.
Motion carries. All in favor.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Have
you.
a good
Nice job.
night.
You too.
You too.
All right, let's move on to memorialization of
Chair,
resolutions,
there's five
please.
resolutions. Resolution of the City of the Planning Board for Jersey City. Applicant is Grove Street Partners LLC for second extension of final major site plan approval, 659 Grove Street, Jersey City, New Jersey. Block 6002, Lot 8, case number is P2025-0045. Resolution of the Planning Board for the City of Jersey City recommending to the Municipal Council approval and adoption of certain amendments to the Chapel Avenue Industrial Park redevelopment plan. Applicant is specific outdoor advertising. L for resolution for the Planning Board for the City of Jersey City recommending to the Municipal Council approval and adoption of certain amendments to the Chapel Avenue Industrial Park redevelopment plan in accordance with the NJSA 40A12A-7, case number speed 2025-0037. Resolution of Planning Board for the City of Jersey City, case number speed 2024-0135. Minor site plan with city variance. Applicant is Ayan Gutich and Shannon Smith. Address is 328 Holiday Street, Jersey City, New Jersey. Block 19007, Lot 30. Resolution for the City of Jersey City Planning Board, resolution of memorialization. Hudson County, New Jersey, conditional use. Address is 3662 John F. Kennedy Boulevard. Case number speed 2024-0225, approved March 11th in the matter of Sifra and Sons LLC. Resolution of Planning Board for the City of Jersey City approving a conditional use. Applicant is Marest, New Jersey LLC for conditional use approval for Jordan Avenue, Block 15102, Lot 27, case numbers P2024-0189.
Second.
Acting Vice Chair Gangadin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Prince Avery.
Aye.
Commissioner Torres.
Aye.
Commissioner Lipsky.
Aye.
And Chairman Langston.
Aye.
Motion passes. All in favor to memorialize resolutions.
We need executive session. Anybody?
No?
All good? All right. Motion. Do a second.
Second.
All right. Thank you, guys. We're adjourned. Appreciate